Have you or someone you've known ever been in the workplace and had a coworker come up to you in an inappropriate manner? If you have, you may have been a victim of sexual harassment. In my story, it occurred at a company Christmas party when a coworker I had never met before approached me in an inappropriate manner. Thankfully for me, I had coworkers around that was able to separate me from the situation. The next day, when I approached my manager regarding the situation and how I felt sexually harassed, my manager had suggested that I let it go because that coworker had been married. 80% of women have experienced some form of sexual harassment in the workplace. And it doesn't just happen with women, it happens with any sex. So what exactly is sexual harassment? Sexual harassment is when you're put in a situation that makes you feel uncomfortable by a person. Sexual harassment can be in the form of verbal conduct, which would be speaking to you in a certain way that made you feel uncomfortable. It could be visual conduct, which would be looking at you in a way that made you feel uncomfortable, or even physical conduct, which would be touching you in a way that made you feel uncomfortable. I have done some research and found 3 solutions on hopefully how we can fix sexual harassment in the workplace, as well as my recommendation on which of the solutions I feel could successfully eliminate sexual harassment in the workplace. My first solution would be to take individual action. By taking individual action, you stand up for yourself and you stop sexual harassment before it begins. If someone approaches you in an inappropriate way, you let that person know that it is not acceptable and that if it occurs again, you will be going to HR and speaking to HR regarding the situation and letting HR then take control of the situation so that you do not experience it ever again. It could then also be to separate yourself entirely from the situation. In my case, I ended up quitting because I did not feel like my manager sided with me and I could trust my manager. I don't want that to occur to you, so I would suggest that you talk to someone from your company, whether it be a coworker or HR, so that you don't have to quit because you are a victim of sexual harassment. My second solution would be to retrain staff. With retraining staff, you would then give the whole company, whether it be a big group training or individual training, on how to handle sexual harassment if it is shown in the workplace. Also, what exactly is sexual harassment? Some people might not know exactly what is considered sexual harassment. They could think that it's okay to put your hand on their shoulder or their hand on your shoulder, when another person would think that that's not okay and that you're entering their personal space. So it's good to know and train staff on what exactly sexual harassment is and what's considered sexual harassment. With retraining the staff, you're also letting the staff know that it's not acceptable and it won't be acceptable. The third solution would be a zero tolerance policy. A lot of companies are doing zero tolerance policies nowadays, which means that they will not tolerate sexual harassment, and if you display any form of sexual harassment, you will then be fired. This is very important nowadays because there are more people speaking out regarding sexual harassment, and it could be a legal problem for your company. That's why they display a zero tolerance policy, so that if you display it, you will be fired. So out of the 3 solutions, which were take individual action, retrain your employees, or a zero tolerance policy, I personally would suggest the first 2 to begin with. Pardon me. Every situation is different. It could be that you felt uncomfortable because someone told you that you looked really nice, when some other person would appreciate it. So it's important that we train our staff to know what we can and can't say, or how we can and can't look at someone, or even putting a hand on a shoulder is inappropriate. If retraining the staff doesn't help and taking individual action by talking to HR, then we have no choice but then to put in a zero tolerance policy. Hopefully with these solutions, we can control sexual harassment and have it not be a problem anymore in the workplace. Thank you very much.